Long ago, in a quiet little village nestled by a winding river, lived a fisherman named Nam. He was a simple man with a heart as big as the sky. Every morning, he'd take his small boat out onto the river, casting his net with a hopeful heart. He never caught much, just enough to fill his own belly, but you'd never see him without a smile. If a neighbor was in need, Nam was the first to offer a helping hand, sharing whatever little he had. His life was a lesson in contentment, finding joy in the simple rhythm of the river and the warmth of his small community. One bright morning, as the sun's first rays danced on the water, Nam cast his net as usual. A little while later, he felt a sudden, heavy tug. A big one, he thought, his heart thumping with excitement. He pulled with all his might, straining every muscle. But as the net surfaced, his excitement turned to shock. It wasn't a fish at all. Tangled in the mesh, struggling desperately, was a large, magnificent snake. Nam's first instinct was fear. His hand reached for the small knife he kept for cutting ropes. The snake was big, and it could be dangerous. He raised the knife, but then he paused. He looked closer and saw something that stopped him cold. The snake wasn't thrashing in anger, but in fear, and in its dark, intelligent eyes, he could see what looked like tears. It was a sight that pierced his kind heart. Then, to his utter astonishment, the snake spoke. Its voice was a soft, sibilant whisper, like the rustling of leaves. "Please, kind man," it pleaded, "spare my life. I meant no harm. I was simply swimming in my home and became trapped. If you show me mercy and set me free, I promise I will never ever forget your kindness." Nam stood frozen for a moment. A talking snake. It was something out of a legend. But the fear in its voice, the plea in its eyes, it felt so real. He looked at the frightened creature, its scales shimmering in the morning light, and his compassion won over his fear. He carefully put down his knife. Gently, very gently, he began to untangle the net, his fingers working ZCUN to free the snake without harming it. The snake remained perfectly still, as if it understood and trusted him. Once it was free, Nam carefully lowered it back into the river. The snake dipped its head in a gesture that looked like a bow. Then, with a graceful flick of its tail, it vanished into the cool, deep water. A few days passed. Life went back to normal for Nam. He fished, he ate, and he helped his neighbors. He almost convinced himself that the talking snake had just been a strange dream. But one night, as he slept soundly in his small thatched hut, he had a vivid dream. In it, the very same snake appeared, its form shimmering and ethereal. It looked at him with those same intelligent eyes and spoke again. "Nam," it said, its voice urgent, "tomorrow a great danger will come to your village. Before the sun sets, you must take your fishing boat and sail to the far side of the river. Do not wait. Do not question this." Nam woke up with a jolt, his heart pounding in his chest. The dream felt intensely real, the snake's warning echoing in his mind. He looked out the window. The sky was clear, the river was calm, everything seemed peaceful. Was it just a dream, or was it a genuine warning? He remembered the look in the snake's eyes, the promise it had made. He had shown it kindness, and it had promised never to forget. Shaking off his doubt, Num decided to trust the message. He packed a few belongings, some water, and a little food, and pushed his boat into the current, rowing steadily towards the distant opposite bank. He reached the other side just as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. He pulled his boat ashore and sat, watching his village from afar, feeling a little foolish. The evening was quiet, the air still. But then, as darkness fell, a low rumble began, growing louder and louder. The sky, once clear, was now a mass of angry black clouds. Rain began to fall, not in drops, but in solid sheets. The river, once so calm, began to swell and churn. It rose with terrifying speed, transforming into a raging, destructive torrent. Nam watched in horror as a massive wall of water surged forward, crashing over the riverbanks and completely swallowing his entire village. Huts, trees, everything was washed away in the violent flood. Num sat there, safe on the high ground, trembling not from the cold, but from the shock of what he had just witnessed. He had survived. The snake had saved his life. When the sun rose the next morning, the floodwaters had receded, leaving behind a scene of absolute devastation. Where his beloved village once stood, there was now only mud, debris, and sorrow. With a heavy heart, Nam rowed back across the river. Everything was gone. His home, his neighbors' homes, the familiar paths all erased. He sat by the ruined riverbank, his head in his hands, grieving for all that was lost. He didn't know what he would do or where he would go. As he sat there, lost in his despair, he saw a ripple in the water. From the depths rose a familiar, scaly head. It was the snake. It swam yo-yoed to the shore, and in its mouth it carried something that glowed with a soft, internal light. It was a pearl, but unlike any pearl Nam had ever seen. It was large, perfectly round, and seemed to pulsate with a gentle, warm energy. The snake laid the pearl carefully on the ground before him. "This is the pearl of gratitude," it whispered. "You saved my life, and I have saved yours. Now, take this. It will bring you good fortune, luck, and peace for all the days of your life. Your kindness has been returned." With another dip of its head, the snake turned and slipped back into the river, disappearing for the last time. Nam picked up the pearl, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. From that day on, the snake's words came true. With the fortune the pearl brought him, Nam not only rebuilt his own life, but dedicated himself to helping others. He became a beacon of hope for the poor and the displaced, his generosity knowing no bounds. And for generations to come, the villagers would tell the story of the kind fisherman and the grateful snake, a timeless reminder to their children that an act of kindness, no matter how small, will always find its way back to you. Thank you so much for watching this story with me today. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more tales from around the world. It really helps us bring more stories like this to you. See you next time.